Hi, I'm Jotham, here to prepare you to buy a house. In this step, we're going to prepare mentally and financially so that you can be confident that you're ready to become a homeowner. I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes, and at the end of it, have 5 simple yes or no questions that when you can answer yes to all of them, you know you're ready to buy. If you'd rather watch little 90-second micro steps, look down below and you see we've made several videos that you can watch at your own pace. Okay, the first step in preparing mentally to be a homeowner is to talk to your people. Talk to your loved ones and talk to your real estate agent. If you have healthy, supportive people around you, they'll probably recommend that you buy a house. Right? Getting out of renting forever is one of the best financial decisions that you can make. But they might tell you some things you hadn't thought about. And if that's, hey, don't you think you need a job first? Well, then that's pretty good advice. So any goal you want to accomplish, it's great to state it out loud around people that love you. Do that with your goal of homeownership, and you've just taken the first step. Next, talk to your agent. As a full-time real estate professional, I do this every day. I will walk you through the process from your initial questions until I put the keys in your hand. I help you avoid any obstacles that come up along the way, and then when we're in the transaction, any issue that does arise, I know how to overcome it because I've done this hundreds of times. Your agent legally represents you. No one else in the transaction does. My whole purpose is there to advocate for your best interests. So yes, I find houses and show them to you, and I can explain the market, but more important than that, I'm always making sure you're fully confident and aware of what's going on so that as you make these big financial and life decisions, you have someone who is doing this all the time that has your best interests first and foremost in the process. The reason that it's important you choose a good agent, like myself and my team, is so that we actually succeed, right? When you make an offer, we get the house, and in the end, when you're sitting on your couch in the house that you now own, you're happy. Yay! That's the end goal, right? So after you talk to your people, next I want to make sure you understand the differences between homeownership and renting. Mainly it's responsibility and then some differences financially. Okay, so responsibility-wise, you just can't miss any bills. Right? There's no landlord to rely on anymore, and if suddenly the lights go out, there's no one to blame but yourself. Also, there's maintenance to the house, right? And we'll go into a little bit of that in just a minute, but in brief, you don't have to fix the toilet, you just have to call the plumber. Don't let a small leak become a bigger problem that costs more and hurts your asset. So financially, most of the difference between homeownership and renting is positive, right? You get more house for less money. You also are building equity as you pay down the loan you use to borrow money to buy the house. As you pay that off, you own more of the house, and so when you sell the house in the future, you have a big chunk of change that has increased your net worth. Also, typically real estate appreciates over time, so the value that your house is worth more in the future than it is when you buy it, you get the benefit instead of a landlord whose mortgage you're paying when you're renting. But there are some upfront costs to buying, and that's what typically keeps some people stuck in renting. And we'll break I'll break those details down in just a minute, but you're going to need some upfront cash, and that hurdle stops some people from becoming a homeowner. Lastly, you do build equity a little bit slowly. Okay, as you pay down that loan, if you are just going to sell the house and want to move again in less than a year, you probably won't have enough time there to recoup your upfront costs. But by year 2 and beyond, it's certainly much better financially to be a homeowner than to rent. So one more thing, kind of mentally preparing to buying the house is to go a little deeper into what it's like to care for a house. An easy way to remember that would be the elements. Okay, water, earth, wind, and fire. Let's go through first with fire because that can become the most catastrophic the quickest. Okay, but you can do some things to minimize the likelihood of a house fire. First, Have fire extinguishers, right? And make sure they're current. Have smoke detectors and make sure they work. Test them every once in a while. Empty the lint out of the front of your dryer, but also out of the back of the exhaust where that lint goes out of the house. Make sure that doesn't get clogged and have the potential to spark a fire. If you see a light flickering in the house and it's not the bulb, then it could be an electrical short circuit. Electrical short circuiting is one of the things that causes house fires, and just call an electrician as soon as you have any feeling there that something might be going on with the wiring. Next is water. Okay, there are a lot of places we want water, but everywhere else we do not. So if you see a leak or you see a puddle, look for the primary culprits of where that could be. The sink, the tub, the shower, the washing machine, the water heater. If it's just a one-time, if something that's just spilled, well, you can mop that up or it will dry. We're looking for ongoing leaks. That is what leaves wood wet and rotting away. Also invites mold. So those are the reasons we don't want standing water or anything just staying moist all the time. Also, your gutters, right? They are there to divert water away from the places we don't want it. Well, if they get filled with leaves or birds' nest, then they might overflow and pour water around your foundation. So just clean those out once a year. And lastly, with water is freezing. Okay, if you live in a place where it's going to be freezing overnight, water, when it freezes, expands, right? And that can burst the pipes. So then when the water melts, when the ice melts, now you have a leak that is just pouring water out of those pipes. So if it's going to be freezing, leave a tiny drip of water coming out, as the flowing water is a lot harder to freeze. Okay, next it would be, the next element would be earth. Okay, your house sits on a foundation, but underneath that, there's just dirt. So we want to make sure that nothing is eroding away the dirt that surrounds your foundation. Whether that's a dog digging or water channeling over time and getting deeper, you want to make sure that that's not happening. Not something you have to check every day, but every once in a while, make sure that nothing is eating away at the dirt around your foundation. Also, you'll notice there's about 6 inches between the dirt and your siding. Okay, and then that's just will be bare concrete. That's so we don't give a path for termites to get in. Okay, it's the same reason that you don't want shrubbery touching the house or trees overhanging limbs to physically be touching the house, as that's a path where a wood-boring insect could come in. All right, lastly, air. Right, the stuff we breathe has dust in it. And that dust is not good for your lungs. It's also not good for your heating and air conditioning systems. So that's why those systems have a filter. Guess what? That filter needs changed every once in a while. Once a month is great. Right? Once in a blue moon is good too, as long as it's not never, where a lot of people just forget to take care of that. Not only is that dust then slowing the life, shortening the life of your heating and air conditioning systems, you're also breathing in worse quality air. So look, 100 million people can do this. You can take care of a house. You just have to choose to do it. Okay, let's talk about financially preparing to become a homeowner. First, I just want to talk about your financial best interests. If you haven't already, now's a good time to make a budget. Right? All the money that comes in, your income, and all the money you spend every month. If you have a job and you spend less than you make every month, a bank is very likely to be willing to give you a loan. And when they do, they're going to give you a maximum home price on your approval letter. Maximum. A lot of people go straight to the top and they end up spending the absolutely most they could ever afford. And then when things get tight, right, making your mortgage payment might get a little bit hard. And I never want that to happen to you. So as we sit down and look at your budget and just a lot of the things I'm doing here is getting you to just face your real financial reality there of what's the smartest decision that you can make. A lot of people get more house than they really can afford while still doing the other things in life that take money. Now, if you're on the other end of the financial spectrum and have piles of money sitting around, then we'll have a slightly different conversation. Okay? You may want to put down a lot and have a very small loan or none. Or you may want to put down a little and invest the rest, earning money at a higher interest rate than the rate that you pay for your mortgage. You may want to put down just enough to avoid PMI, or private mortgage insurance, which is an extra fee or insurance built into your mortgage when you have less than 20% equity in the house. You may want to put down the minimum and blow the rest of your money. Now, a lot of inherited fortunes have been lost that way, and I want to help you avoid that. Whatever your priorities are, we will lay those out and have an open discussion so that you don't get caught up in the emotion of the search later on and get the house that might not be the best one for your family for the long term. So, now let's talk about the actual money, the cash that you need in order to buy. Right? You're going to bring some, and the bank's going to bring some. The cash that you need to bring, there are 4 numbers that we're going to talk about. Too big and too little. The too little are about $500 each. Inspection and appraisal. After we have been through the house and you decide you want it, we make an offer and we get it under contract, we want to send in a licensed home inspector to crawl around everything for 2.5 or 3 hours and give you back a report with everything that's not perfect about the house. Also, the bank wants to know a third party's opinion on what the house is worth, and that's what the appraiser does. So, $500 each, that $1,000 goes pretty quick. There's 2 other costs, down payment and closing costs, and those are about 3% each. Okay? Your down payment, when the bank brings most of the money, but they want you to bring some. So that could be 3%, maybe 3.5%, or maybe 5%, right? Whatever the bank approves you for. Now, if there's a special program that you qualify for where it could be even less, of course we will get that for you, but plan on you contributing some money to the purchase price of the house. The second big cost is closing costs. That's loan origination fees, lawyer and title search and insurance. Title is making sure that the seller really owns the house, and something called prepaids, which would be homeowner's insurance and property taxes paid a year in advance. So those costs also add up to about 3%. Now it's a little bit negotiable. We'll go into in another step how all of the closing costs, whether the seller pays any of that or you do, or somewhere in between. I would get the seller to pay for it if at all possible, but just know in a competitive market, if they've got several other offers, they just want to net the most money possible, and they're going to accept offers that don't ask them to pay all of closing. So just let's look at it this way. If you want a $250,000 house, you're going to need about 10 grand. Okay, so get to saving up the money that you need to bring to the purchase. Now let's talk about the money that the bank will bring to the purchase. To do that, you're going to meet with a loan officer. Think of a mortgage loan officer as your advocate within a bank. Right? Yes, they work for the bank, but they want to give loans. Right? They want to give out the money. The underwriters who work for the bank that we never meet or see, they are the ones charged with protecting the bank's money, and they make the ultimate decision. But the loan officer is there to advocate for you to get a yes from the underwriters. So all that to say, tell them everything, okay? In the era of big data, the underwriters are going to find everything, and let's not have them find something in your financial history that makes them not give the loan that you thought maybe, I mean, I've heard it many times. People say, I didn't think you were going to find that. Well, they will, so tell the loan officer everything. And at the end of your meeting with the loan officer, either they're going to give you an approval, say you are definitely good to go, or they may leave you some things to work on. And what that might look like, what the things to work on could be paying down debt, or building up a little bit more credit history, or spending a little more time at a new job, right? Or anything on your credit report that needs work on in order to raise your score. Your credit score is a measure of how well you borrow money and pay it back. It's not a measure of your net worth or your total debt or how good of a person you are. It's just your history of borrowing money and paying it back. And since they're about to loan you a big sum of money, they want to see that you pay back your debts. So you're kind of stuck at this step until the loan officer sees that you are going to get a yes from the bank, and they'll give you a gold-plated letter, the pre-approval. Now, once you have that letter in your hands, it's not $500,000 just yet. Okay? This is not the time to quit your job or to buy a car, right? Or to apply for more credit cards or to buy furniture or anything on store credit. Once you get a pre-approval, maintain your perfect credit activity, doing anything that the loan officer tells you to do and not doing the things that they tell you not to do. But once you can get a yes from them, we are good to go. So here we go. 5 rapid fire questions, yes or no. Do you want to buy a house? Are you confident in your ability to care for the house? Are you confident in your ability to pay the mortgage on time every month? Do you have the one-time cash needed to purchase? And do you have the pre-approval letter from the bank that they'll bring the rest of the money for the purchase? If you said yes to all 5 of those, congratulations, you're ready for the next step. Click the button at New House Tracker. Let's meet and get you from questions to keys.